Let's see if we can get a little launch here. Whoa. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going over the all-new 2022 Toyota GR86. Before getting into the video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get right into it. So under the hood, we have a naturally aspirated 2.4 liter flat 4-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual transmission. Fuel economy is 20 around town and then 27 on the highway, with power outputs being 228 horsepower at 7,000 RPMs and then 184 pound-feet of torque at 3,700 RPMs. Let's go over the front end of the GR86. So first off, you guys can see we've got these haunches on either side of the hood, and it just gives it a really cool distinctive appearance, and it's something that Porsche actually does on a lot of their cars too, to kind of give you sight lines, but then also it just looks cool, frankly. Anyways, popping down below, you guys can see here with the daytime running light and with the headlights, super distinctive. Some people initially didn't like this, but after seeing this in person on this and then also on the BRZ, I think it actually looks really good. Got the venting down below right next to that, and you guys can see here for the front grille it says GR there, and then you have the Toyota logo just up above. And overall, I really do like the new front end styling here on the 86. Now, coming around the side here, we've got 215mm tires wrapped around 18-inch wheels in the front and in the rear. We also have a Torsen limited slip differential. And back to the tire and wheel setup. Now, the wheels being 18 inches is not a problem because you guys can see this is a lightweight car, so it doesn't need massive brake rotors. Now, the tires, on the other hand, are basically Prius tires. Now, they are Pilot Sport 4s, which is not what you're going to see on a Prius, but when I say Prius tire, I mean the fact that they're super narrow and yeah, kind of an interesting thing, but overall it's definitely improvement over the previous generation tire setup. And then you guys can see here with the venting on the side, and then I love how the fender is molded right there. Notice the mirror cap is blacked out, and from the side view I think this is like the best angle on the car. It just looks so beautiful. The proportions are amazing. The hips there in the back, how they pop out a little bit, also looks really good. So here is our key fob, which is actually a Subaru key fob, which has been modified to be a Toyota key fob. That's why we have the Toyota logo right there, but pretty simple setup. Now, if you just hold that down, that'll pop the little latch for the trunk, but you have to lift it up the rest of the way yourself. Now, this is a little two-door sports car, and so storage space isn't massive, but I mean, compared to, I think this car's pretty much only competitor, which is like the Mazda Miata, it's actually pretty good. You could also compare this to like a base model Supra with the 2-liter 4-cylinder, and so this would not be as spacious as that. But yeah, there's not a lot to compare it to, but it's decent for how small the car is. Now let's finish things up with the rest of the rear. So you guys can see we've got this ducktail spoiler, which is actually its own separate piece, as you can see with the bodywork. So hypothetically, if you didn't like it, you could take it off, but I think it looks really good, especially in the rear view mirror. Now we've got these new taillights, which again were kind of controversial, but I think they look really cool. I do like the old style of taillights to an extent, but I also think this looks cool how it like connects there in the center with that trim piece to little trunk popper button. Of course, we've got another GR86 logo. I think the whole diffuser setup looks pretty good, and then you've got these pretty large exhaust tip covers, which just give it an aggressive appearance, especially when you look at it kind of from a lower angle. But again, I think they did a good job with the styling from a rear end perspective. So we're going to start things off here in the back seat area, which I'm not going to pull the seat back because, well, yeah, I just wouldn't fit. You pretty much have to have no legs to be able to fit back here with the seat in a normal position setting. But other than that, I mean, these seats look pretty cool back here. Also, headroom is yeah, non-existent, and I'm not like a gigantic human or anything like that, so yeah, it's got a nice seating area back here, but I guess reserve it for Legolas. That was a horrible joke. Let's head to the front. Now here is the front door panel. You guys can see here with the Alcantara here at the top. I think it looks really cool. And then we have this nice padding down below. Funny enough, this is really like padded, and then here is pretty hard to the touch. And then notice the front two windows are automatic. Well, they're the only windows. We do have blind spot monitoring for the mirrors. And then I really do like the front seats. They look really cool. They are a little bit on the harder side of things, but they definitely hold you in place really well. And I think just, like I said, aesthetic looks great. They are manually adjustable. Really cool finish on the 3-pedal layout because this is a manual. You can get an automatic trust me, get the manual. And let's pop in. So here is the steering wheel for the 86. You can see material use is actually really nice all over. You've got the GR logo there in the center portion, and then notice the contrasted stitching. This does come with regular cruise control, and then you guys can see the turn signal light stock, windshield wiper stock, all the normal stuff, but yeah, pretty normal steering wheel, right? Now here is the center gauge cluster, which is my favorite part. It has normal stuff like the trip computer, for example, but my favorite part is how you can change it based on the drive mode. So if you pop into the track mode, for example, then it'll actually change the gauge cluster and look like this, which is really cool if you ask me, and then you can go back to the normal mode. Now, if I hold the stability control button down for quite some time, it also goes into that mode. So there's two different ways to get the gauge cluster to go into that mode, which is pretty neat if you ask me. Now, popping here to the infotainment system, first off, if we pop it into reverse, we do have a backup camera, which direction lines, they do turn with the steering wheel. Resolution is pretty good. Don't really need a crazy camera system because this is a very small car, and visibility through the windows is pretty decent, except the back, hence the backup camera. Anyways, as for the infotainment system, it's pretty decent. It's pretty easy to use overall. It's got like analog controls on either side, nothing too fancy, but again, it's kind of what you expect in a sports car like this. We do have dual zone climate controls, and I love the little buttons down here for the climate controls. I think that's pretty cool. I do think this is a missed opportunity. They could have done like the drive modes and stuff like that in this little area, and that would have been cool, like doing toggle switches, but still, we at least have that. We've got the little GR stop start button, and then you guys can see the shifter for the 6-speed manual transmission. We'll talk about this more during the driving portion of the video. Reverse lockout is up and over like that. Pretty simple. This is your stability control button. You can hold that down to turn everything off. You got your track mode on the other side. Heated seats here for the front. We have a traditional parking brake right here, and then we have this weird cup holder center console situation, and then you guys can see here with the glove box. And then notice here with the material use on the dash, just pretty much hard touch plastic ever, except you do get some more Alcantara right above the gauge cluster setup. And then finishing things up top, we've got like kind of like a double bubble design here on the roof, so it helps out with headroom. And then you guys can see here it's a little bit lower there in the center portion. All black headliner, and that's it. So here is the window sticker. I love how they call it a 2+2 coupe. Anyways, you guys can see here with the standard equipment, notice that they have to flex, that they have the Torsen limited slip differential, and then everyone always talks about their McPherson strut front suspension as well. But anyways, you guys can see the rest of the standard equipment. Now notice the base MSRP on this, $30,300. Again, this is a premium, and then this does have a couple options, including a special color, which is called Track B Red. Okay. Anyways, total MSRP, $32,658. Let's take it out and go on a fun drive. Let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's your visibility over the hood, both of the mirrors, throughout the rest of the rear, and let's set off. Okay, so we are starting the driving portion here with the 86. Now I have this road picked out for performance cars because it's just such a good road to do some performance driving. Now, first off, you guys will notice I'm in the track mode, and you guys can see she's got pretty long legs. That's one of the things kind of interesting about the 86, because it's not like a crazy high horsepower car, but the gearing, it's not like super long, but I can pretty much stay in second for most of the time here. Now this road has a little bit of elevation change throughout. It's got a bunch of bumps, so it really tests out the suspension of a car. There you go. And this car likes to be higher up in the rev range, that is for sure. Grip is amazing. Woo! Back end popped up a little bit there. It's the bumps on the road. But you know what? This car's pretty dang well sorted. It's super controllable. Even over these bumps that are just punishing for most cars, This isn't necessarily the most comfortable experience, but what I can tell you is the 86 stays nice and planted. So we're gonna get a little bit more fun performance driving on this road, and then we're gonna go on a regular road, and then we're just gonna go over the daily driver stuff, and then we're gonna sum things up for this video. But actually, you know what? Since there's no one ever uses this road, let's see if we can get a little launch here. Whoa. Man, that is a riot. Actually, I can do this in third gear. It's got enough torque in the mid-range. Yeah, it's got enough torque in the mid-range that I can do this in third gear. Brakes are amazing. That's another thing with this car that I really like. With the modulation of the brake pedal, woo! It is just fantastic what you can do. That's a little bit. Second would be better. Yeah, for some of those corners, definitely would have rather been in second than third. I wanted to see how good that low-end torque is that Toyota and Subaru have been bragging about. Still feels so much better. The higher still feels so much better at the higher end. This thing is such a blast to drive. Woo! So, there's our and it's so easy to rev match downshift too. There's our little performance driving for the video. Now we are back from Mexico, as every YouTuber says, which is so overplayed. Let's actually talk about the daily drivability here of the 86. So first off, with the cruise control, it's just regular cruise control, not adaptive. So it's an okay system. Would have been cool if they'd have added adaptive, would have made it a little bit more daily drivable. But again, I don't think people are really purchasing this for daily driving. I think that most people are purchasing this for the fun performance side of things, and then maybe they happen to also use it as a daily driver. Dual zone climate, great. It actually stays pretty cool. This is one of the few cars that doesn't have air conditioned seats, that even when it's 100 degrees outside, I don't sweat all over the seat because the air conditioning's good enough. I know it's a weird thing to say, but talking about daily driving, one thing that annoys me is this right here is super hard. So if I want to rest my elbow and like put my hand on the steering wheel like this, my elbow eventually gets like bruised because it's like so hard. But then further back it's softer, but then it's like I'd have to be like 6'5" to be back enough to have my elbow on the soft section. And again, if I was like 6'5", I don't think my head would fit in here. So it's, yeah, some of the dimensions in this car are kind of weird. Sound system's actually really good. It's not like the best sound system ever, but it's a small car and it definitely works for the car. And then the manual transmission's not too cumbersome to drive around in traffic. This car is, I mean, you can install it just like any other manual, but it does a pretty good job of just making it difficult to stall, if that makes sense. So overall, that's pretty solid as well. And it's a fun daily driver because like you can, this is like slow enough that it sounds so bad, slow enough that you can like have fun on your daily commute without breaking the law. And that leads me into the conclusion here with the 86. So I think it looks great on the outside. I love the interior for the most part. I love the seats. I love the gauge. I do think though that the like whole dash and infotainment system area is not necessarily like the nicest looking. It does kind of bring down the interior slightly. Driving dynamics in a performance setting are absolutely amazing. The handling's amazing, and this new powertrain definitely just improves this car so much. You guys got to remember, I'm at like 5,000 feet elevation, and it worked so well, even though this is a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. However, this car would be literally perfect. All the stuff I said about the infotainment system, I would not care about, and this car would be just absolutely perfect if they would have given this the turbocharged 2.4 liter 4-cylinder and not this naturally aspirated one. This doesn't need a massive amount more horsepower than what it has. 220 horsepower is plenty. And, you know, they have made it so that this feels better in the mid-range from a torque perspective. However, if this had 228 horsepower and like 228 pound-feet of torque, oh my goodness, it would feel so much better. Seriously, it would feel so much better. And then also here at elevation, being turbocharged, we would have less power loss, and so this would feel even punchier. I think the sweet spot for this car, frankly, if you ask me, would be about 250 to 275 horsepower and then about that much torque, turbocharged engine. Maybe a little bit more torque than the horsepower, but not too much, because then you're just going to be roasting the tires. But if it was in that range, turbocharged, it would literally be the best sports car of the year, hands down. Nissan Z, Toyota Supra manual would not compare. But because this is still naturally aspirated, it does hold it back a little bit. Finally, they made that stop sign flashing. Here's the deal. For the money, this is still an amazing performance car. It is just, it's super comfortable, it's daily drivable, driving dynamics, handling dynamics are all amazing. It's just held back by the fact that, you know, and what everyone wanted out of this car, and that is a turbocharged engine. And, you know, there's a lot of aftermarket companies that'll do this, they'll turbocharge this, but ultimately, Toyota slash Subaru should have been the ones to do the turbocharging from the factory. Hopefully we get like, you know, a BRZ STI, and then like, you know, whatever, turbocharged 86 in the future. Hopefully they do that. Cross our fingers. That's all this needs. Other than that, it's a perfect car. Now let's get some things up for our video on this 2022 Toyota GR86. And with that being said, I'll see all of you in that next video.